My father, Robert Mitchell, stood before a packed conference room at Harper Pharmaceuticals, his finger jabbing at me like a prosecutor sealing a verdict. He wasn't addressing me, he was condemning me. Who let this disaster happen? His voice thundered, shattering the air. He thought his power could erase my name. He didn't know his words were the spark that would ignite his downfall. I'm Sarah Mitchell, 35, a research pharmacist. The glass doors of the boardroom clicked shut behind me, locking in a suffocating silence. 50 pairs of eyes turned, cold and predatory, sizing up their prey. Whispers cut through the air. That's her, the one who botched the trial, the CEO's daughter. My skin prickled, but I stood tall, shoulders back, face blank. I wasn't here for their pity. I was here to fight. If you've ever faced betrayal in your own family, stood alone against a wall of lies, share your story below. Subscribe to Unravel Truths, because every voice deserves to be heard. The glass walls of the Harper Pharmaceuticals boardroom seemed to close in, the air thick with judgment. My father, Robert Mitchell, CEO of this corporate empire in suburban Georgia, stood at the head of the polished mahogany table, his tailored suit as sharp as his words. His eyes, dark brown, like mine, but colder, locked onto me for exactly 10 seconds before he turned away, addressing the room of executives, researchers, and board members. 10 seconds. I counted each one. Each tick was a lifetime of scrutiny, a silent verdict that I was guilty before I could even speak. The massive LED screen behind him glowed with data from the failed trial of Seraphine, our flagship drug meant to treat chronic pain. Red error codes pulsed like a heartbeat, accusing me of the catastrophe that had hospitalized 20 patients. That's her, a whisper hissed from the back. Robert's daughter, the one who rushed the trial. Another voice, sharper. She botched a formula. The words stung, each one a needle piercing my skin. I stood in the center of the room, my navy blazer and skirt pressed to perfection, my hands clasped to hide the tremble. My training as a research pharmacist kicked in, head up, eyes forward, breathe steady. But beneath the professional facade, I felt exposed, like a specimen under a microscope. The polished marble floor reflected the faces of my colleagues, their expressions a mix of pity and disdain. My heels clicked as I walked to my assigned seat, each step echoing like a gunshot in the cavernous space. I wasn't here to beg for forgiveness. I was here to do my job, a job none of them could do, despite their credentials and smug confidence. Then I saw her, my sister, Emily Mitchell. She stood beside my father, her sleek blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, her face a mask of professional concern. As head of clinical trials, she was his right hand, his chosen heir. She didn't look at me, not directly, but her lips curved into a faint, triumphant smile. She was part of this performance, the opening act of my public disgrace. My father raised a hand, silencing the room. This failure, he said, his voice low and deliberate, cost this company millions. It endangered lives. And it happened under her watch. He didn't say my name. He didn't need to. His finger pointed at me, a guillotine in a three-piece suit. The room gasped, a collective intake of breath that sucked the oxygen out of the air. His laugh followed, a deep, hollow sound that wasn't amusement, but a weapon. It boomed across the room, designed to strip me bare. It bounced off the glass walls, a public execution of my reputation. I felt my knees weaken, the edges of my vision blurring. 15 years of research, late nights in the lab, countless breakthroughs, all reduced to a single word: failure. Beside him, Thomas Harper, our chief researcher and my father's golden boy, smirked. He was enjoying this, his arms crossed, his eyes glinting with satisfaction. He'd been promoted over me last year, despite my superior track record. This was his moment to shine, built on the ruins of my career. The silence that followed was worse than the laughter. It was heavy, suffocating, a void that swallowed every shred of my dignity. My father let it linger, savoring the weight of it. Then, just as I thought I might collapse under it, the boardroom doors swung open. A woman stepped inside. She was petite, her graying hair tied back in a severe bun, her dark pantsuit understated but commanding. "Doctor?" Margaret Reynolds, a senior official from the National Health Institute, carried an authority that didn't need a raised voice. She didn't hesitate, didn't glance at the whispering executives. She walked straight to my father, her eyes sharp as a scalpel. "Actually, Robert," she said, her voice calm but cutting, "I requested Sarah's presence. She designed the original Seraphine formula. This mess is now my problem, and I don't tolerate theatrics." Her words landed like a shield, deflecting my father's final blow. The room froze. I saw the color drain from his face, his jaw tightening. For the first time that morning, I took a full breath. Emily's smug smile faltered, her eyes darting to our father for reassurance. He didn't give it. Dr. Reynolds turned to me, her gaze steady. "Sarah, let's talk." She didn't wait for permission, leading me out of the boardroom. The whispers followed us, but they were different now, uncertain, shaken. That moment wasn't the first time I'd felt my father's disdain. His laugh, that cruel, cutting sound, threw me back 20 years to a high school science fair in Atlanta. I was 15, my hair in a messy ponytail, my hands stained with ink from drafting chemical formulas. I'd spent a year in our basement, working on a new painkiller compound, tweaking molecules until I found one that worked. It was my obsession, my pride, a formula that could reduce opioid dependency. I won first place at the national competition for young scientists, a moment that felt like pure electricity running through my veins. I stood on that stage, clutching my trophy, my heart pounding with the thrill of creation. Then my father, a rising executive at the time, was invited to speak. He stepped up to the podium, his suit immaculate, his voice polished. He spoke about teamwork, about leadership, about the future of pharmaceuticals. Then he pointed to Emily, sitting in the front row, her face bored but expectant. "Sarah's success," he said, his voice warm with false pride, "is thanks to Emily's guidance. She kept the project on track. In short, it was a team effort." The audience clapped, the sound swelling for a lie. Emily hadn't touched my work. She'd been too busy with cheerleading practice to even glance at my notes. I stood there, the trophy heavy in my hands, feeling invisible. He'd taken my achievement, my year of sleepless nights, and handed it to his favorite daughter. After the ceremony, Emily sauntered up, her smile bright with unearned glory. "Nice work, sis," she said, her hand on my shoulder like we were equals. "We did good." The word "we" was a slap, a theft she didn't even recognize. She'd grown so used to taking credit for my work, so comfortable in the spotlight my father built for her, that she didn't see the injustice. My father had taught her that, taught her to expect my labor as her due. The pain of his betrayal was sharp, but Emily's casual acceptance of it was worse, a slow poison that lingered. That night, alone in my room, I stared at my trophy, its shine dulled under the cheap lamp. A knock came at the door. My uncle, William Carter, my mother's brother, stepped inside. He was a quiet man, a pharmaceutical researcher with tired eyes and calloused hands from years in the lab. He'd driven 4 hours from Savannah just to be there. He didn't say much, just sat beside me and looked at my formula, scribbled on graph paper. "They can clap for stories," he said, his voice low and steady. "But this compound, this is truth. "You made that, Sarah. You hear molecules in a way others don't." His words didn't erase the hurt, but they built something inside me, a quiet strength, a private truth. They were a reminder that my worth wasn't tied to applause or my father's approval. It was in the logic of chemistry, in the truth of science. That truth became my anchor when I left Harper Pharmaceuticals. I took every dollar I'd saved and rented a small lab on the edge of town, a cinder block building that smelled of antiseptic and burnt coffee. Lab 12, I called it, my kingdom of grit and glassware. It was hot in the summer, freezing in the winter, but it was mine. I worked alone, surrounded by secondhand equipment and a radio that crackled with old rock tunes. I took any job I could get, formulating generics for local clinics, testing samples for small pharmacies, even calibrating machines for nearby hospitals. It was grueling, solitary work, but it was honest. The locals were skeptical at first. A wiry guy in overalls, a clinic owner, tossed a broken centrifuge on my workbench. "Fix it," he grunted, "but if you break it worse, you're done." I didn't argue. I worked through the night, my hands smudged with Worese, my eyes burning from staring at gears. When I powered it up, the machine hummed perfectly, its rhythm steady. He stared, his scowl softening into reluctant respect. He paid in cash and left without a word. That was a good day. One evening, after wrestling with a stubborn spectrometer, I sat on the concrete floor, a cold soda in hand, and checked my emails. There it was, an email from Emily. The subject, big news. She'd been promoted to Director of Research at Harper Pharmaceuticals, crowing about a new efficiency protocol she'd developed. I recognized it immediately. I'd outlined that idea years ago, scribbled on a napkin during a late-night study session when she was flunking her MBA. The soda tasted bitter, mixing with the familiar sting of injustice. She was climbing the corporate ladder on my ideas while I was scraping by in a dusty lab. Anger surged, hot and familiar, but I didn't let it consume me. I stood, channeling that energy into a side project, an old medical analyzer I'd bought at auction, deemed unfixable by every technician in the county. I worked through the night, my hands tracing circuits, my ears tuned to the machine's faint hum. I found it, a tiny fault in the calibration chip, invisible to standard diagnostics. By dawn, the analyzer purred to life, its readouts clean and precise. It was my victory, small but real, built from my own skill and stubbornness. That victory wasn't just mine for long. Word spread in the tight-knit world of Georgia's medical community. A reputation for fixing the unfixable brought clients to my door, clinics, pharmacies, even small hospitals. One morning, as I cleaned my workbench, an email arrived. The sender was a cryptic string of letters and numbers, encrypted and unsigned. The message was blunt. "We need your expertise. Discretion is mandatory. A car will arrive tomorrow at 8 a.m. My instincts screamed caution, but curiosity won. I replied with one word: confirmed. The next morning, a black SUV pulled up, its engine silent as a whisper. It drove me to a nondescript office park, its glass facade hiding a state-of-the-art lab. Dr. Margaret Reynolds greeted me, her handshake firm, her eyes sharp. She led me to a testing room where a prototype analyzer sat, its design hauntingly familiar. It was an advanced version of Sarathian's testing equipment. "They say it's dead," she said, her voice even. "What do you think?" I spent 2 days in that lab, barely eating, never sleeping. It was just me and the machine. I didn't trust the data logs. Too clean, too perfect. I listened to the analyzer's hum, felt its vibrations. There it was, a microsecond glitch in the sensor cycle, dismissed by automated systems as within tolerance. It wasn't broken, it was miscalibrated. I sketched a new algorithm, tweaking the sensor logic. When I presented it to Dr. Reynolds, she listened without interrupting, her gaze piercing. "You're not just a technician, Sarah," she said. "You talk to machines." She slid a contract across the table. "3 years ago, Harper lost an asset. I read your original Seraphine formula. The official report doesn't match it. Your talent deserves better." Her words hit like a revelation, cracking open a wound I hadn't realized was still raw. "The Seraphine trial is failing again," she said. "I need you back, not as Robert's daughter, but as the best pharmacist I know." Tears stung my eyes, not from pain, but from gratitude. For the first time, someone saw me, really saw me. Stepping back into Harper Pharmaceuticals felt like walking into a haunted house where I was the ghost. The sleek glass building in suburban Georgia loomed larger than I remembered, its sterile hallways buzzing with whispers about my return. Dr. Margaret Reynolds had brought me back as a consultant, her authority from the National Health Institute overriding my father's influence. But Robert Mitchell, my father, was a master of subtle warfare. He couldn't openly defy the order, so he made sure I felt his disapproval in other ways. Memos were misrouted, my access codes worked, barely. Colleagues avoided my eyes in the cafeteria, their conversations dying as I passed. The message was clear. I was an outsider, tolerated but not welcomed. The first team meeting was his opening shot. I was there to analyze the Seraphine trial's failure, but I was also the formula's original architect, a fact that hung in the air like static. I started to explain my theory, a calibration error in the drug's delivery system, a subtle mismatch in the dosing algorithm. Before I could finish, Thomas Harper, my father's chosen researcher, cut me off. "With respect, Miss Mitchell," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, emphasizing "miss" to strip away my credentials. "Your instincts might work in a backwater lab, but here we rely on data, not feelings." He smirked, playing to the room of researchers who shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The insult was deliberate, a public jab to discredit me. I held his gaze, my face calm, my voice steady. "The data's not wrong, Harper. You're just reading it through the wrong lens. You're looking for a flaw when you should be hearing a signal." The room went quiet. Thomas's smirk faltered, but he recovered, leaning back with a dismissive wave. My father, seated at the head of the table, said nothing, his silence louder than any reprimand. That evening, in the dim light of my temporary office, a windowless cube that felt more like a storage closet, my phone buzzed. The caller ID was blocked, but I knew who it was. My father's private line. His voice, when I answered, was calm, patronizing, the tone of a parent lecturing a wayward child. "Sarah, you're stirring up trouble," he said, smooth as glass. "Digging into settled matters is reckless. You're just a consultant here. Let Thomas's team do their work." A cold knot twisted in my stomach. He was boxing me in, redefining my role to keep me small. "My place," I replied, my voice as sharp as his, "is as the person who designed Seraphine's formula, and I know it was altered." There was a pause, a crack in his composure. When he spoke again, the warmth was gone, replaced by steel. "I refined it," he said. "Your design was too experimental, too costly. I made it practical. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." It was a lie so polished it almost sounded true. He wasn't protecting the company. He was protecting himself. I hung up, my hands shaking, not from fear, but from a rising fury. Before I could process it, my phone rang again. My mother, Linda Mitchell. No greeting, no concern, just a flood of tears, rehearsed and weaponized. "Sarah, how could you?" she sobbed, her voice thick with panic. "Your father's under so much pressure. His career, our family's reputation. You're tearing it apart for your own ego. Think about Emily, her future." Her words were daggers aimed at my guilt, my loyalty. She wasn't defending me. She was defending the family narrative, one that had never included my worth. "Mom," I said, my voice steady, startling even myself. "The family's reputation died 3 years ago when no one stood up for the truth." Her gasp was sharp. "Don't you dare speak to me like that," she snapped. I cut her off, my words clean, final. "I'm not stepping back, not this time." I ended the call. My hand trembled as I set the phone down, but it wasn't weakness, it was rage, pure and blazing, a fire that clarified everything. I couldn't rely on memory or instinct. My word against a CEO's was nothing. I needed proof, cold, hard evidence that would expose their lies to Dr. Reynolds, to the world, to myself. That night, sleep was impossible. The ghost of my mother's tears, my father's manipulation fueled me. I sat at my secure terminal, the screen's green glow casting shadows on my face. I wasn't Sarah Mitchell, the disgraced daughter, anymore. I was a hunter, and my prey was the truth. Drawing on skills from my early days in data analysis, I probed the company's internal network. I didn't need a sledgehammer. I used quiet, precise commands, mimicking a low-level admin's access. I wasn't after classified files. That would have tripped alarms. I was scavenging in the digital shadows, the forgotten archives, the unscrubbed logs where secrets hide. For hours, I navigated the maze of directories, my heart pounding with a mix of adrenaline and dread. Then I found it, buried in an obscure subfolder labeled Q2 Trial Backups. A log of changes to Sorrenthine's dosing algorithm, my original design, a precise, tiered delivery system replaced with a crude, high-risk version. The authorization signature stopped my breath. Robert Mitchell, CEO. Timestamped at 2:17 a.m., the night before the trial's catastrophic failure. He'd done it himself, alone, in the dark. This wasn't a mistake. This was sabotage. My hand covered my mouth, stifling a gasp. The screen blurred as my eyes burned. But I didn't stop. Rage sharpened my focus. I dug deeper, chasing data fragments tied to that timestamp. Then I found it. A single email, archived on a backup server. It was from my father to Thomas Harper, instructing him to adjust the trial parameters per executive directive. Attached was a scanned photo, a screenshot of my original dosing chart, marked with handwritten notes in my father's sharp, angular script. Adjust dosage per Harper's recommendation for cost efficiency, RM. The lie was breathtaking. Thomas would never have suggested such a reckless change. It violated basic pharmacology principles. My father had fabricated the note, pinning the blame on his protege to cover his tracks. The photo was the smoking gun, the proof I'd been searching for. It wasn't just data, it was a confession, captured in his own handwriting. My breath came in shallow gasps as the weight of it sank in. He'd been willing to let me take the fall for a disaster he'd engineered to protect his empire, his legacy. But I needed more. A single photo, even one this damning, could be dismissed as a misunderstanding in a boardroom. I needed to make it undeniable. I kept searching, my fingers flying across the keyboard. In a public archive, I found a press release from the day after I was forced to resign. It announced a gala hosted by Robert Mitchell to celebrate the streamlined success of the Sarathine project. He'd thrown a party, clinked champagne glasses, while my career lay in ruins. The audacity of it burned, but it also steeled me. In a moment of clarity, my uncle's words echoed, "You hear molecules others don't." I closed my eyes, letting the rhythm of the truth guide me. I copied every file, the log, the email, the photo, the press release, onto an encrypted flash drive. It felt heavy in my hand, not from its weight, but from its power. I looked at my reflection in the dark monitor, my face pale, but my eyes alive with purpose. "You picked the wrong fight, Dad," I whispered, a vow to myself. The next morning, I worked in my office, the flash drive hidden in my pocket. I was methodical, organizing the files into a timeline of betrayal. Every log, every timestamp, every lie was cataloged, cross-referenced, a case built on the unyielding logic of science. I wasn't preparing an emotional plea, I was constructing a prosecution. Around noon, a knock came at my door. Nathan Brooks, a young data analyst from Thomas's team, stood there, his face pale, his eyes darting down the hall. "Sarah," he whispered, still using my name with a respect that felt rare. "I know what happened 3 years ago. I was the junior analyst who pulled the initial trial data. I saw the original logs before they were deleted." His voice shook, a mix of guilt and fear. I was scared. I've got kids, alone. He held out a USB drive, small and unassuming. "This is my backup of the unedited trial data from the day it failed. I kept it. I don't know why. It just felt wrong." I took the drive, its warmth a testament to his trembling hands. "Thank you, Nathan," I said, my voice calm, offering him the reassurance he needed. "You did the right thing." He nodded, almost fleeing down the hall. Now I had everything: the original data, the altered logs, the photo. But I knew files alone wouldn't win this war. In a world of corporate politics, evidence could be spun as opinion. I needed a stage, a moment to make the truth undeniable. I found an empty conference room, its whiteboard gleaming under fluorescent lights. With a black marker, I began to draw, my hand steady. I recreated Sarathine's original dosing algorithm, the precise curves of its delivery system, the safety checks I'd built in. Every line was perfect, a testament to the truth they'd buried. As I finished, Thomas Harper appeared in the doorway, his arms crossed, his sneer sharp. "Still doodling, Mitchell?" he mocked. "Stick to fixing old machines. This is above your pay grade." I didn't look at him. I kept drawing, adding my signature in the corner, Sarah E. Mitchell. The whiteboard wasn't just a diagram. It was a challenge, a public accusation in the language of science. I knew they'd have to face it. The whiteboard in the conference room stood like a silent prosecutor, its black lines a testament to the truth Harper Pharmaceuticals had buried. My recreation of Sarathine's original dosing algorithm was more than a diagram. It was a gauntlet thrown down in the heart of their empire. By mid-morning, Dr. Margaret Reynolds saw it during her routine tour. She stood before it, her sharp eyes tracing every curve, every calculation. She didn't say a word, just nodded once and requested a private meeting. In her office, I handed her the encrypted flash drive, its weight heavy with evidence. The altered logs, the email, the damning photo with my father's handwritten note. "This changes everything," she said, her voice low but resolute. "We're scheduling an emergency review this afternoon." My father, Robert Mitchell, was a master strategist. He couldn't block Dr. Reynolds' order, but he turned it into a trap. He framed the review as a routine stress test of the Sarathine trial, inviting a select group of pharmaceutical journalists to witness what he thought would be my final humiliation. His goal was clear: to cement his narrative that the trial's failure was my fault and that his leadership had salvaged it. When I walked into the testing lab that afternoon, the air was thick with tension, like a courtroom before a verdict. The lab's sterile white walls gleamed under harsh lights, and the hum of equipment felt like a pulse. Engineers from Thomas Harper's team stood at their stations, their faces blank, avoiding my gaze. The journalists lined the back wall, notebooks open, cameras ready, their eyes glinting with anticipation. In the center of the room stood my father and Thomas Harper, radiating confidence. Emily, my sister, was there too, her tailored blazer crisp, her expression a mix of smugness and feigned concern. They thought this was my execution. My father gave a curt nod, and the lead engineer started the simulation. "Run the current parameters," he commanded, his voice steady, authoritative. The main screen lit up, displaying a digital model of Serathine's delivery system. Data streams flowed, dosage rates, patient response metrics. For a moment, it looked stable. Then amber warnings flickered. The numbers spiked red. The system's audio simulation let out a shrill alarm, signaling an overdose risk. At exactly 85 seconds, a crimson alert flashed. Critical failure, dosage imbalance, patient harm imminent. Thomas slammed the emergency stop, his face a mask of rehearsed competence. He turned to the journalists, his voice smooth. "As you see, the original design has inherent flaws. We're working tirelessly to stabilize it." My father nodded, his expression grave, as if he'd expected this. The lie was seamless, designed to bury me again. My heart pounded, but I stayed calm. This was the moment I'd prepared for. Dr. Reynolds stepped forward, her presence silencing the room. "Thank you, Mr. Harper," she said, her voice cutting through the charade. "Now, run the simulation with Sarah's original parameters." She used my name, not my title, a deliberate choice that felt like a lifeline. Thomas smirked, taking the flash drive I offered and plugging it into the console. "Let's see your parlor trick," he muttered, just loud enough for me to hear. The simulation restarted. The system reacted violently, alarms blaring as the dosing algorithm fought the change. Red lights flashed across every screen. The journalists murmured, their pens scratching furiously. Emily shot me a triumphant glance, her lips curling. This was the failure they'd banked on. "Pause simulation," I said, my voice clear, unwavering. The room froze. I walked to the main console, ignoring Thomas's sneer, and entered a series of overrides, adjusting the dosage variance, recalibrating the delivery rate, fine-tuning the feedback loop. I didn't look at the data streams. I didn't need to. I closed my eyes for a moment, feeling the rhythm of the system, listening to its language. I was the molecule whisperer, just as my uncle had said. "Resume simulation," I commanded. The room held its breath. The alarms began to quiet, one by one. The red lights shifted to amber, then blinked green. The shrill warning softened into a steady, controlled hum. The simulation clock ticked past the fatal 85-second mark. It hit 120 seconds, then 180, then 240. It completed a full 300-second cycle, flawless, with efficiency metrics surpassing the original projections by 8%. The screen glowed green, stable, perfect. Silence gripped the room, heavier than any sound. The journalists lowered their cameras, their faces shifting from curiosity to shock. They turned their lenses to my father and Thomas, whose confidence had evaporated. Thomas stood frozen, his mouth slightly open, his skin pale. My father's face was a mask of disbelief, his eyes wide, his jaw tight. Emily's smug smile was gone, replaced by a flicker of panic. I stepped to the projector, my hand steady, and displayed the photo, the scanned image of my original dosing chart, marked with my father's handwriting, his initials stark against the white background. "This," I said, my voice calm but carrying to every corner, "is the original design, altered without my approval. The change, ordered by Robert Mitchell and falsely attributed to Thomas Harper, caused the trial's failure." The journalists leaned forward, their cameras clicking. I pointed to the timestamp, the signature. "This photo proves it wasn't an error, it was deliberate." The room erupted in murmurs, the air electric with realization. My father opened his mouth, then closed it, his empire crumbling in real time. Dr. Reynolds took the floor. "This evidence will be reviewed by the National Health Institute," she said, her voice cold, final. "The simulation confirms Sarah's design was sound. The failure lies elsewhere." She didn't need to say more. The journalists were already typing, their headlines forming. Thomas slumped in his chair, his career in tatters. Emily stared at the floor, her hands clenched. My father stood motionless, a king dethroned. The aftermath was swift. The journalists' reports sparked a media firestorm, calling it a corporate scandal orchestrated by greed. Within days, the National Health Institute launched a formal investigation. My father was suspended pending review, his 40-year career unraveling like thread. Thomas Harper was fired for misconduct, his reputation destroyed. Emily was quietly demoted, her golden status tarnished. The empire my father had built, on control, lies, and favoritism, collapsed under the weight of one photo. I should have felt triumphant, but I didn't. There was no victory dance, no celebration, just a hollow exhaustion, like the quiet after a storm. A week later, my phone rang. It was Emily. For a fleeting moment, I hoped she'd ask how I was, maybe even apologize. I was wrong. "You destroyed everything," she screamed, her voice raw with anger. "Dad's ruined, my career's on the line, all because of your selfish need to be right. Do you know what this means for me?" Her words were a torrent of blame, as if I'd burned down her world instead of exposing the truth. I listened, silent as she ranted. When she paused, gasping for breath, I spoke, my voice eerily calm. "You never asked how I felt, Emily. Not 3 years ago, not now. Goodbye." I hung up and blocked her number. The act felt final, like cutting the last tie to a family that had never truly been mine. It didn't hurt. It just felt quiet, a stillness I hadn't known I needed. Days later, my father showed up at Lab 12. His sedan rolled up in a cloud of Georgia dust, but he wasn't the towering CEO I'd known. In khakis and a polo, he looked smaller, older, his face lined with defeat. He didn't apologize. Instead, he offered excuses, his voice hoarse. "I was protecting the company, Sarah. Your formula was too risky. I never meant for it to go this far." The same tired lies, repackaged. I raised a hand, my palm smudged with lab grease, stopping him. "Don't," I said, my voice steady. "You didn't protect me. You protected your legacy, and you lost." He stared, his mouth opening, then closing. There was nothing left to say. I reached for the silver ring on my finger, a gift from my PharmD graduation, given by him, a symbol of his world, his expectations. I slid it off, the skin beneath pale from years of wearing it. I placed it in his hand. "I'm giving this back," I said, my voice clear, free of anger. "I don't need your legacy. I'm building my own on truth." I turned, walked into my lab, and pulled the heavy door shut. The clang echoed, final, leaving him alone in the dust. For the first time in my 35 years, I felt free. Not the explosive freedom of movies, but a quiet, expansive space where I could breathe. Lab 12 wasn't just a workspace anymore. I leased the neighboring unit, knocked down the wall, and expanded. It became the Carter Research Hub, a nonprofit training program for young pharmacists, especially women who'd been overlooked. Every morning, the lab filled with voices, the clink of glassware, the smell of fresh coffee. I taught them to listen, to hear the rhythm of a machine, the logic of a formula. I taught them their worth wasn't in titles or applause, but in the truth they created with their hands. One afternoon, a thick envelope arrived from the National Health Institute. Inside was a letter from Dr. Reynolds. The investigation had concluded. My credentials were restored, my record cleared, with back pay for 3 years. She offered me a role leading a new research division. "We need people like you, Sarah," she wrote, "people who fight for the truth." I smiled, folding the letter into an old box where I kept my uncle's notes. The validation mattered, but it didn't define me. That evening, I sat with a young pharmacist struggling to calibrate a dosing machine. Her hands shook, frustration in her eyes. I pulled a worn screwdriver from my uncle's toolbox, its handle smooth from his years of use. "Don't force it," I said, placing the tool in her hand. "Listen to what it's telling you." Her eyes lit up, a spark of understanding. In that moment, I knew my legacy wasn't Seraphine or the photo that brought my father down. It was this, passing on knowledge, building something real. The Georgia sun sets over Lab 12, painting the sky in hues of amber and violet. I sit on a worn metal stool at the entrance, the Carter Research Hub alive with the hum of machines and the laughter of students. A year ago, this place was a solitary refuge, a cinder block box where I fought to rebuild my life. Now it's a community, a nonprofit training ground for young pharmacists, mostly women who've been overlooked, just like I was. The air smells of coffee and antiseptic, a far cry from the sterile boardrooms of Harper Pharmaceuticals. I don't teach from manuals. I teach my students to trust their instincts, to hear the rhythm of a formula, to feel the pulse of a machine. Their worth isn't in degrees or titles. It's in their hands, their minds, their ability to create truth from chaos. This morning, I watched a young pharmacist, her eyes bright with determination, recalibrate a dosing analyzer. She used my uncle's old screwdriver, its handle worn smooth by his years of work. When the machine hummed to life, her smile was my victory, a quiet, shared triumph that means more than any corporate award. Freedom isn't what I expected. It's not a burst of joy or a grand celebration. It's a vast, quiet space where I can finally hear my own voice. A year ago, I stood in my father's shadow, his lies suffocating me. Now I stand in my own light. The pain of his betrayal, my mother's silence, Emily's entitlement, they're ghosts I've laid to rest. I walked through their fire and emerged whole. As the last student waves goodbye, I stay on my stool, watching the horizon swallow the sun. The desert wind carries a soft hum, not of loneliness, but of possibility. My legacy isn't the photo that brought my father down or the trial that cleared my name. It's this lab, these students, this truth I've built from the ashes of their lies. I am Sarah Mitchell, pharmacist, teacher, survivor. I am free. If you've ever fought to reclaim your voice, to rise above betrayal, your story matters. Share it below, and let's build a community where truth wins.